Hey everyone, welcome back. We got a wild ride ahead as we dive into the latest buzz around the NFL draft and what it could mean for the Las Vegas Raiders. If you've been feeling that pre-draft tension creeping in, trust me, you're not alone. This year's draft has been surrounded by more questions than answers, and the anticipation is off the charts. By the time we wrap this up, you'll be looking at this as one of the most unforgettable lead-ups we've ever seen. So buckle in, because today's breakdown is going to stir the pot a bit more. Right now, the NFL world is in full speculation mode. Rumors are flying, insiders are whispering, and fans are just trying to make sense of it all. And with the Raiders sitting at the 6th pick, the stakes couldn't be higher. People were pumped about the draft, but now there's this wave of nervous energy creeping in. It's like everyone's excited, but also scared about what comes next. If you're planning to follow the action live, just a heads up, I'll be streaming everything from 6 o'clock Eastern. That's 3 o'clock on the West Coast. We're going to break down each pick, not just for the Raiders, but for the entire draft class. And here's the kicker. You might see some picks with us before they even pop up on TV. Sometimes we're 2-3 picks ahead of the broadcast. So if you want to be the first to know what's going down, you know where to be. Let's get into the meat of it. There's one name that's been lighting up the rumor mill lately, Ashton Jeanty. And that's probably why you clicked on this video in the first place. The big question swirling around is whether or not the Raiders will pull the trigger on Jeanty. He's the electric running back out of Boise State who's been creeping up draft boards everywhere. But here's where things get murky. Even if he's available at 6, it's sounding like the Raiders might pass. According to a well-connected source I spoke with, Jacksonville is unlikely to take Mason Graham, and the Raiders probably won't go for Jeanty with that 6th pick either. Now, Jeanty was on a podcast recently and mentioned that his ceiling was pick number 6 and his floor was 12. That seemed like a pretty realistic range. I'll be honest, after hearing that and checking out some recent reports, I started to think, yeah, maybe he does go 6th overall. But after digging deeper, I'm not so sure anymore. Jacksonville might just scoop him up before the Raiders even get the chance. What's clear is that the chatter around the Raiders draft board is heating up. Over the weekend, I connected with some folks around the league, and from what I've gathered, it's looking less and less likely that Jeanty will be rocking the silver and black next season. Instead, it seems like the Raiders might be leaning towards strengthening their pass rush. Two names to keep an eye on, Jalen Walker and Mike Quail Williams. Walker, coming out of Georgia, is starting to climb. Boards fast. A lot of teams have him ranked higher than most fans would expect, but my gut? I think there's a team out there that might just fall in love with Williams' athletic traits and take the leap. Either way, if the Raiders are moving away from Jeanty, it could come down to one of these two defensive talents. You've heard me talk about both of them before. I dropped a video on Mike not long ago, and I've been covering the Jalen Walker hype for a while now. With Walker, what really stands out is the pressure he generates. Last season, he posted 34 total pressures at Georgia, and that's not just noise. If you're looking for a defensive player who brings a Bowers-type presence to the other side of the ball, no, I'm not saying he'll be that good, but the mentality Walker brings, that's the kind of energy this Raiders defense could use. He's versatile, he's driven, and he's got that chip on his shoulder kind of game that coaches love. Then there's Mike Williams. If the Raiders decide to trade back, Williams could become even more attractive. I'll have more on that tomorrow. But what's important now is this. Both Williams and Walker fit a profile the Raiders seem to be targeting. Guys who've grown inside elite programs, shown real development, and bring leadership qualities that matter both on and off the field. But let's pause for a second. How are Raiders fans feeling right now? No, seriously, I'm worried. I threw this question out on social media, and I want to bring it here too. On a scale from 1 to 10, how stressed are you about the draft? 1 being totally chill, and 10 being I'm losing my mind. Personally, I'm at an 8. No joke. I was walking into the studio this morning thinking, man, I cannot wait for this draft to just get here already. At one point, I was convinced Jeanty, Mason Graham, or even someone like Armenu could be on their way to Vegas. But after today's buzz, I don't know anymore. There's just so much smoke. I'm struggling to see where the fire actually is. Now, if we look at the projected top 5 picks, here's what's most likely happening based on the most consistent reports I've seen. Cam Ward is basically a lock to go 1st overall. Travis Hunter has been sitting as the heavy favorite for the 2nd pick, and Abdul Carter's odds for the 3rd slot have been skyrocketing. He went from -475 to nearly minus. 900. And then there's Will Campbell. From what I'm hearing out of New England, the Patriots are pretty high on him. So if Jacksonville really is thinking about taking Genty at 5, that puts the Raiders in a tricky spot. Do they pivot to defense, look to trade down, or throw a curveball we didn't see coming? One more name you need to have on your radar, Kelvin Banks Jr. I brought him up during a live stream earlier this week, and since then, the noise around him has only gotten louder. There's a growing belief that the Raiders might actually be locked in on Banks with that 6th pick. A well-known analyst I trust even said he thinks Vegas might prefer Banks' run blocking over other available prospects. Now, I'm going to be honest here. That's where I start scratching my head a little. Because as good as Banks is, his real strength is in pass protection, not run blocking. He's a standout offensive lineman, no doubt about that. Some scouts see him as a guard, others project him as a tackle. But either way, he's graded out. With a strong 86 score on PFF, which reflects solid play in both the run and pass game. The thing is, as we've gotten closer to draft night, I'm starting to wonder just how much of this Banks to Vegas talk is real and how much of it is just noise. There's also the question of meetings. The Raiders didn't meet with every top prospect, and that sometimes tells a bigger story. Relationships matter in this organization. Banks did have a top 30 visit, and there are connections between coaches on the current Raider staff and his past mentors. That stuff adds up, and check this out. His odds to go top 10? -150. That's significant. He might not be the most talked about guy among fans, but trust me, Kelvin Banks Jr. is someone you want to start learning about now. The buzz is very real. I'm not saying he's my top choice, but if Vegas takes him at 6, it won't be a shock. Now, if the Raiders really do go with Kelvin Banks Jr. at pick number 6, the reaction's going to be all over the place. Some fans are going to be thrilled. They'll see it as a move to protect the quarterback, build the trenches, and send a message that this team is serious about winning in the long term. But others, they're going to question the value of taking an offensive lineman that early, especially if the plan is to slide him in at guard instead of using him as a full-time tackle. And that leads us to a bigger question. What happens with Kolton Miller? Because here's the deal. Miller's been a staple for the Raiders, a reliable, consistent presence at left tackle. But he's also coming up on the end of his contract, and word is he wants a new deal. If Vegas doesn't intend to give him that extension, drafting a guy like Banks could be step 1 in a plan to move on. And if that's the case, a trade could absolutely be in the works. I had a chat with someone close to the team earlier today, and they suggested that if the Raiders draft Banks, there's a real possibility they flip Miller for draft capital. The estimate? A 3rd round pick. Now, I don't know about you, but if all they get back for Miller is a 3rd, I'm going to be disappointed. He's better than that, and letting him go for anything less than a 2nd rounder feels like bad business. So let's talk about who else could be on the move. There are whispers that Michael Mayer might be on the trade block. With Brock Bowers rising up draft boards and drawing major interest, Mayer's future in Vegas suddenly feels uncertain. He's still got upside, no doubt. But if the Raiders fall in love with another tight end, that could push Mayer out of the picture. And if he's gone, that's another signal this team is completely reshaping its identity. Another name to watch? Dylan Parham. He's been a starter for 3 seasons, entering the final year of his rookie deal, and with the team bringing in reinforcements like Alex Kappa and Jordan Meredith, his spot could be in jeopardy. If they want to add yet another lineman, Parham might be the odd man out. Trading him would free up around $3.7 million in cap space, and that's not nothing. If he's not part of the plan this year, moving on now could make sense. And what about Aiden O'Connell? He's been the starter for most of his time with the team, but there are signs the Raiders might be ready to shake things up at quarterback. There's been buzz that they've been eyeing Joe Milton, and if they're seriously considering drafting a quarterback, whether that's in round 2 or later, they might not see O'Connell as the guy long term. That makes him another potential trade piece, especially for teams looking for a young backup with starting experience. Then there's Tyree Wilson. He's heading into his 3rd year, but if the Raiders are seriously considering bringing in edge rushers like Jalen Walker or Mike Williams, that says a lot about where they stand on Wilson. I've heard that if the right offer comes along, something like a 4th round pick, they might be willing to move him. That would be a pretty bold move, considering the draft capital they originally spent on him. But if they think Walker or Williams has higher upside, it might be a risk they're willing to take. Now, with the 2nd day of the draft right around the corner, things could get wild. Several players are being floated as possible trade candidates, and I've been hearing from multiple sources that the Raiders are one of the teams most likely to be involved in a deal. Whether that's to move up, move back, or clear out the roster a bit. Expect activity, and let's not forget the quarterback situation. Another name that's been mentioned is a late-round QB who has strong college ties and some deep connections in coaching circles. I'm not naming names just yet, but you're going to want to keep an eye out. If the Raiders are looking to take a flyer on a developmental guy, he could be their target. There's also buzz about another quarterback who could go in round 2, someone scouts have been quietly praising as one of the most naturally gifted players in this class. If they're willing to be patient and develop him, it could pay off in a big way a few years down the road. But let's zoom out for a second. What's really going on here is bigger than just pick number 6 or whether they draft a running back or an edge rusher. This is about direction, identity. This is a new era for the Raiders, and what they do in this draft is going to tell us everything about how this front office wants to build a contender. Are they focused on flash, or are they thinking long-term structure? Do they want instant stars, or are they building a foundation piece by piece? There's been talk that the team is open to trading up if the right player is there. And no, not for a running back. That feels like a stretch. But for a true impact player, for someone who changes your franchise's trajectory, that's a real possibility. I've heard some chatter that they've been calling teams ahead of him, gauging interest, seeing what it would take to jump a few spots. It's all going to come down to who's still on the board when their number's called. Now, keep in mind, this front office has been playing their cards close to the chest. There are so many conflicting reports floating around. And honestly, that's probably by design. Misinformation is a weapon this time of year, and nobody wants to tip their hand. But one thing we do know, the Raiders are not sitting still. They're working the phones. They're running scenarios. And they're absolutely ready to shake things up if the opportunity presents itself. With the draft now just hours away, the uncertainty is part of the excitement. Nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. And that's what makes this so much fun. It could be Genty. It could be Banks. It could be a shocker none of us saw coming. All we know for sure is that when that 6th pick comes around, the whole league will be watching. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Las Vegas Raiders. And don't be shy, drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. TJ Watt's seismic move from the Pittsburgh Steelers to the Las Vegas Raiders has sent shockwaves through the NFL community, marking one of the offseason's most jaw-dropping transactions. After 5 seasons anchoring Pittsburgh's vaunted defense, where he amassed 3 consecutive Defensive Player of the Year nominations and terrorized quarterbacks with a staggering 101 sacks, the premier pass rusher has elected to bring his talents to Sin City, signing a mega contract that redefines the market for defensive stars. Sources close to the negotiations reveal that Watt's new deal with the Raiders spans 5 years and guarantees a staggering $180 million, including a record-setting $110 million in fully guaranteed money. For Las Vegas, which has long struggled to find a franchise defensive cornerstone, acquiring Watt represents a commitment to transforming its unit into one of the league's most fearsome. Head coach Josh McDaniels, eager to establish a winning culture, believes Watt's relentless motor and championship pedigree will elevate the entire roster. He's a game changer on and off the field. His leadership and competitiveness set the standard. McDaniels stated shortly after the signing, Watt's decision to depart Pittsburgh was influenced by multiple factors, chief among them the opportunity to blend forces with a Raiders secondary that, despite flashes of potential, has lacked consistent playmakers. In Pittsburgh, contract impasses and salary cap constraints had put prolonging Watt's stay in jeopardy. The Steelers brass faced the unenviable choice of restructuring core defenders' deals or risking losing their marquee star. Watt, intent on maximizing the twilight of his prime, ultimately chose Las Vegas's offer, which not only secures his financial future, but also promises a high-octane defense built around his unparalleled skill set. Fans in Oakland's successor city have already begun celebrating. Social media erupted when the Raiders' official channels posted videos of Watt high-fiving teammates and donning the silver and black in a promotional shoot. Season ticket holders anticipate a seismic shift in home game atmospheres at Allegiant Stadium, where opposing quarterbacks will now dread facing Watt's explosive first step and vicious bull rush. Analysts predict the Raiders could vault from a middling defensive ranking to the top 5 in sacks and pressures, fundamentally altering the AFC landscape. Meanwhile, the Steelers confront a new era. Pittsburgh's front office must now address the void left by Watt's departure, potentially turning to younger edge rushers or pursuing free agent solutions. General Manager Omar Khan emphasized the team's resolve to remain competitive, hinting at aggressive draft moves and trades. Losing TJ stings, Khan acknowledged, but our foundation is strong and we'll keep building toward a championship. As TJ Watt embarks on this lucrative and high-stakes chapter in Las Vegas, the NFL braces for a dramatic rivalry rebirth. Two storied franchises, one grappling with transition, the other daring to dream bigger, now share an indelible link through the league's premier defensive force. The coming seasons promise electric showdowns and unforgettable highlights, as Watt's relentless pursuit of quarterbacks continues under the neon lights of the Strip. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Las Vegas Raiders, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.